a song to shake thy bum too.
We have come tonight to rock you. And you know, I'm getting a feeling like we're going to have a good time here tonight. Hey, what about that?
So hello and welcome to another episode of our new podcast, Listen to What the Man Said. Today I'm going to discuss some new records that I got and some new releases, and I haven't even figured out what the topic for Paul McCartney is going to be yet, so this is going to be an interesting podcast, I guess. So I finally got around to listening to even more of the Record Store Day stuff that I got, as well as the Father John Misty. I know I've talked about him a lot lately, but I'm really enjoying his music, and it's very rare that I kind of latch onto a more modern artist so quickly. But I kind of enjoy what I'm hearing, and so this is the Father John Misty live at Third Man Records, which is Jack White's record pressing plant in Tennessee. And Nashville, Tennessee. And this was recorded on September 26th of 2017. What's cool about this is a direct to acetate record, which means that there was no tape involved. It was just kind of the signal chain went right onto the cutting head of the lathe to the acetate, which is kind of what they use to make a record. So there is no tape step. It just kind of goes from the microphones into some sort of preamp, I'm guessing, and then master it on the fly. And then it gets sent to the cutting head of the lathe that then cuts the, I guess in this case, an acetate, but it would be kind of the disc that the masterer usually cuts. That then gets sent off to be, electroplated and all that other kind of stuff, where they kind of make the mother, the father, the positive, the negative, and then they finally make the stampers that stamp the records. So my first impression of this record, quality-wise, is that it was very thin. I doubt it's even 140 gram, which surprises me because Jack White is so kind of particular about his quality. I was impressed with the sound, though. The sound really, it's only a guitar and a voice. And, it sounds good. And Hollywood Forever Cemetery sings. I think he messed up during that, but he kept going like a true professional does. And the audience kind of picked up on that and laughed a little bit. That was pretty funny. Again, just listening to his lyrics, very sarcastic, very funny. But yeah, so this is just the regular old black version. I think there's a colored variant that probably sold out. I kind of like listening to live recordings. Anyone that knows me knows that I prefer live recordings over studio recordings, because I feel like anyone can make a studio recording, okay? But I feel like the real art is where you go out on the road, sing the song, and you reproduce the recording live. You only have one shot, and that's it. Versus in the studio, you can punch in and punch out every single, phrase if you need to. Whereas live, you have to nail it every time. So that's kind of why I love live records. I really just love live records. So I got a new camera. I'm recording this on my new DJI Osmo Action camera. And I'm just doing it as a test today. And we can see the field of vision is much wider. So I might have to move some shit around and keep it clean. But yeah, so I'm going to grab some new records that I got, and we will take it from there. Okay, first off is the new Graham Nash live album. It's called Graham Nash Live, and what he did was he did his first two solo albums from start to finish, which his first solo album was Songs for Beginners, and I mean, I was reading in the liner notes that Graham Nash was the last of CSNY to release a solo album. Okay, and like the liner notes said, he had a lot to live up to. It. Songs for Beginners has probably some of the best like singer-songwriter songs of the two albums he sang. I know a lot of people like Wild Tales, but I don't know. I just kind of I feel like Songs for Beginners is just a classic from start to finish. I mean, you start with Military Madness and you end with Chicago. Doesn't get much better than that, folks. And I think my favorite song off of both of these albums is I Used to Be a King. I just think that is, probably one of the best songs on the albums. Yeah, so this was recorded in 2019. This was right before the pandemic. Graham Nash kind of threw this together, if you will. There's video of him rehearsing. I think they had 3 days or 4 days of rehearsal. And he kind of hired new musicians he'd never played with before, in addition to having his 2 or 3 standbys that he's always worked with, which in the CSN divorce, he got custody of Shane Fontaine, which is he's a fantastic guitar player. And then you have Todd Caldwell, who is a fantastic organ player. And I was very surprised to find out that he plays the saxophone. I did not know that. And he plays the saxophone on this record. In fact, I guess his father, I think his name's Toby. Oh, Don, I'm sorry. Don. Toby's the brother, I think. Don Caldwell comes on during the New York show, and they kind of really have this interplay. Graham even notes it in the liner notes. Another thing I was really impressed with is the quality of this record. This is on some label I've never heard of, Proper Records. And, for being I don't mean this disparagingly, but I mean not a major label, for this being not a major label, the quality of the record was quite impressive as well. I don't think it's not advertised as 180, but I think it's 180. The only thing that I will complain about, because hey, I can, it's my podcast, is the paper sleeves, the nothing lined paper sleeves. They really scratch, and they kind of scratch the records, and then the paper fibers kind of get stuck in the grooves, and it's not really the greatest. On the back of the record, they give you the track listing, and it tells you what city each song is from. And there's only one from New York. Now, my friend Dan, who runs a Connecticut record store, went to the New York show, and he said it was phenomenal. This is mixed by Kevin Killen. I don't really know much about him, but it's really mixed well. You can hear everything. Okay, so here's a little note from Graham. I'm proud to be able to share this music with you after all these years. The band only had 3 days of rehearsal, and even though I've never played with most of them, they did a fabulous job. We played 4 shows and chose the best performances. I particularly enjoyed the sax interplay between Todd and his father on There's Only One. Apart from 2 small mistakes by me, there are no overdubs on these tracks. Enjoy. And, I'm sure that Graham is the only one that notices these mistakes. I actually haven't heard the mistakes, so I'm kind of curious what they are. But, yeah, so there's a lot of... Boston must have been a hot show because there is a lot of tracks from there. I would suggest getting this record. Support indie music, and these legacy artists are still putting out good quality product. I got the Police's Greatest Hits. This is half-speed mastered. I have not listened to it yet because I just got it yesterday. But it's got all the hits on here. Roxanne, Message in a Bottle, Walking on the Moon, Don't Stand So Close to Me, Dee Doo Doo Doo, Dee Da Da Da, Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic, Every Breath. This was mastered at Abbey Road Studios, and this is one of their half-speed mastered advertised records, and it's probably done by Miles Showell. He seems to be the half-speed masterer in Abbey Road. So, expanded deluxe 2 LP edition of the Classic Hits collection. 16 tracks, including 14 UK top 20 hits and 5 UK #1 singles. Remastered at Abbey Road, cut at half speed across 2 LPs for ultimate sound. Expanded artwork and packaging in a bespoke gatefold sleeve. 180 gram heavyweight vinyl. Okay. And then here on the, I'm going to call it an obi, even though it's not Japanese. This record was cut using a specialist technique known as half-speed mastering. This artisan process results in cuts that have superior high-frequency response, treble, and very solid, stable stereo images. In short, a very high-quality master that helps create a very high-quality record. Nice quality. The only thing that kind of irked me about this is that it's $50. Even on Amazon, it's $44. So, I mean, it's not cheap. It's not a cheap record. I find that all the half-speed mastered records are expensive. Most likely because they're pulling them from the best sources possible. It's not just a digital cut. And I guess that costs money to do. Probably, you know, insurance and all that kind of stuff because they're pulling the master tapes out of the vault. But you know what? To me, I feel like the multi-track tapes would be more valuable because that's where the masters came from. You know, like when they go back and do the Beatles, they go back to the master multi-tracks. Granted, they only had 4 or 8 channels at the time, but okay, this is back in stock, and this was hard to get for a while. This is the 2 LP cut of Rumors. This is 45 RPM, pressed at Palace, and it is a very high quality record. The sleeve is an amazing cardboard. It's high quality. It looks a lot better than the 33 RPM. So get this while you can. Another $50. It's, you know, you pay for quality. So basically, when you're paying more than $22 for a record, like a legacy record or one from one of the, you know, big record companies, you know that you're getting a good record. The quality is probably going to be fantastic. The other thing I noticed is, thank God, they did not put that god-awful new Warner Brothers Records logo on here. When they were repressing all the Warner's records, they put that new logo on. It just looks like cheesy. It really doesn't look good at all. So they didn't put that on here, which is great news. Okay, now the last two I'm going to talk about are Analogue Production titles, which this is my understanding of Analogue Records. It is run by the inimitable Chad Kassem, and he also owns Quality Record Pressings, which is a record pressing plant, and they really do phenomenal work. The quality control is unparalleled, in my opinion. So I got 2 records that recently came back in stock. So I'm guessing what's happening is when they don't have like a paid gig, they start repressing their own records. And so I got Witch's Brew. And this is cut from the original master tapes. It's on heavyweight vinyl, most likely from Stoughton. Unmatched QC, meticulous test pressing evaluation and quality control. Deluxe package, highest quality jackets and rice paper inners. And limited edition, less than 1,000 records per stamper. And they're released in limited quantities. So what does that mean? 1,000 records per stamper. Usually after, they have the master and then the stamper is made to stamp the records. So after about 1,000 presses, it really starts to get worn out, meaning that it's not as high quality as it used to be. And that's kind of what happened with Tapestry. I covered in a previous video that, it's hit or miss with quality because they were really just pressing to keep up with demand. And I don't think they were really adhering to the 1,000, limit that they try to do. And this was originally released in 1958. Yeah, I don't think we would have gotten a cover like this in 1958. And this is one of those living stereos, those 3-track masterful, recordings that are just phenomenal. I have the Belafonte at Carnegie Hall living stereo. I have Belafonte Sings the Blues. Okay, such an amazing record. So again, original master tapes, heavyweight vinyl, deluxe packaging, limited edition. So this is the first record that was made in stereo by Harry Belafonte. And this was released in 1958. This was recorded mostly in one day, January 29th, 1958. So Calypso, which is probably my favorite Harry Belafonte record, was made in 1956. And this was made in 1958. And this is just him singing a whole bunch of blues songs. 1 by Ray, 2 by Ray Charles, 3 by Ray Charles. Take that back. 3 by Ray Charles. Yeah, so this is the 33 RPM record. This is not the 45. I hem and haw about getting the 45. And how I rationalize that is that, unless you have a $30,000, $40,000 system with, the $2,000 cables and $1,000 cartridge and all that kind of stuff, I really don't think you're going to hear a difference. This is pressed from the most pristine source you can get, unless, we went back in time and I snuck into the studio while Harry was recording this. You're not going to get a better copy of this record. So even at 33, it's still the best one out there. It's better than anything they can throw at you. Okay, now on to Paul McCartney. So he's been getting a lot of press lately for his tour, and I have to say that his voice is consistently average, which is good. It's not getting worse. It's not getting better. It's just staying average. So there's two things I want to note. First thing is that he inconspicuously dropped Back in the USSR, which is a shame because it is such a classic song. And I understand, with everything that's going on in the world. But he, could possibly add it back as like a protest to what's going on. But the other thing is that he's not singing Yesterday. Now, I know for the longest time, I personally have been harping on, I wish he would stop doing X Beatles song. I wish he would stop doing this and do a different song. And now that he stopped doing Yesterday, which I'm not sure why, but he's still doing Here Today, which he can't sing. I can only imagine what that sounds like. He couldn't sing it in 2003. So yeah, that's the bit on Paul McCartney. If anyone kind of wants to speculate why he hasn't sung Yesterday, I'm kind of curious. I know that he needs the special guitar for that. He needs it's tuned down. Even on the record, it was tuned down. It's not like he tuned it down because he can't sing it anymore, but he tuned it down, and maybe they didn't want to bring the guitar. I don't know. But he does only play one bass during the entire show. I feel like it would be so great if he, when he does like a Wings song or something like that, if he went to the Ricky and started playing the Rickenbacker, that would be great. I know that it's a heavy guitar, and if you've ever seen a Hofner or a knockoff, you know how light they are. They're like 2 pounds. It's crazy. But for the most part, though, I'm pretty sure he stopped using that in like 1965, 66. Correct me if you know the exact date, but from then on, it was the different bass. It was the Ricky, and then in the late 70s, he used that god awful Yamaha. And then I think the first time we saw the Hofner after Let It Be was in the Coming Up video. And then it went away for, 7, 8 years until Elvis pleaded with him, can we record with it? So we have Elvis Costello. Now, speaking of Elvis Costello, I'm not a fan, but when he writes with Paul McCartney, I love those songs. Like Flowers in the Dirt. It took a while. Flowers in the Dirt was kind of like an album that took me a long time to come around to. I'd always liked the hits that he sang on the tour. So like Tripping the Life Fantastic has, maybe 4 or 5 songs from that record. And those are the songs that I liked. But then one day I just started, like, when the archive collection came out, I was like, well, let me just kind of listen to it the way he envisioned it from start to finish. And to be honest with you, now my favorite songs are the songs that aren't sung live. That Day Is Done is probably one of the ones that I listen to the most. I love that song. And then everyone bitches and moans about Motor of Love, but it's kind of just a Paul McCartney song. I mean, we are used to these kinds of ballady, kind of mushy, obviously written for Linda type of songs. And to find out that Elvis Costello wrote most of the songs that I love on that album kind of makes me want to revisit Elvis Costello at a certain point, which I probably will. But, I'm really impressed with those songs. So if you have any comments, questions, or just want to yell at me over things I got wrong, feel free to put those in the comments, and I will see you next time. Thanks.